For over 70 years, humanity has been chasing a dream. A dream of power so clean, so limitless, that it could rewrite the future of civilization. A form of energy that powers the stars, contained here on Earth. It's called nuclear fusion. And for decades, it's been the holy grail of physics. Always 30 years away. Always just out of reach. Until now. Because 2025 might be remembered as the year the impossible became real. Net positive fusion reactions. More energy out than in. Not in theory, not in simulation, in real operating fusion reactors. This is the story of how we lit a star on Earth, and what happens next. What is fusion energy? Let's start with the basics. There are two kinds of nuclear energy. The kind we use now, fission, splits heavy atoms like uranium to release energy. It works, but it produces radioactive waste and carries risks we all know too well. Fusion is the opposite. It fuses light atoms, usually hydrogen isotopes like deuterium and tritium, into heavier ones. In the process, it releases immense energy. It's how our sun shines. It's what powers every star in the sky. And the best part? No greenhouse gases, no long-lived radioactive waste, no risk of meltdown. One glass of seawater, rich in hydrogen, could theoretically power your entire home for hundreds of years. So why aren't we using it already? Because fusion is hard. It requires temperatures over 100 million degrees Celsius, hotter than the sun's core. At those temperatures, matter becomes plasma. And plasma doesn't like being contained. You can't use metal walls. They'd melt instantly. So scientists have spent decades trying to build reactors that hold plasma in place using magnetic fields or lasers, trying to get the reaction to sustain itself and output more energy than it takes to trigger. And for most of that time, we failed. Until recently. What happened in 2025? 2025 changed everything. The year began with breakthroughs from two major players, JET in the UK and NIF, the National Ignition Facility, in the US. Let's start with NIF. In December 2022, they made headlines for achieving ignition, getting more energy out than the lasers put into the fuel, a huge milestone. But in 2025, they did it again, repeatedly, with better efficiency, better control, better yields. It wasn't a fluke anymore. It was fusion ignition on demand. At JET, the Joint European Torus, they broke the world record for sustained fusion energy. For 5 full seconds, they produced over 69 megajoules of energy using deuterium-tritium fuel. That might not sound like much, but in fusion terms, it's massive. It showed that fusion can be sustained, not just triggered in a flash. But perhaps most importantly, both facilities hit the same milestone: net energy gain. For the first time, humanity created a reaction that generated more energy than it consumed to sustain the fusion process. We're not talking science experiments anymore. We're talking proof of principle. Why this is a big deal? You might be wondering. If it took this long just to make a spark, how close are we to turning fusion into power for your house? Closer than you think. These breakthroughs matter because they prove the core physics works. The dream is no longer theoretical. But it also signals a turning point for private industry. Fusion isn't just a government project now. It's a booming startup sector. Companies like Commonwealth Fusion Systems, an MIT spin-off using high-temperature superconductors, Helion Energy, backed by Sam Altman, TAE Technologies, Tokamak Energy, First Light Fusion, are building next-gen reactors designed for net power output. Not in 50 years, but by the early 2030s. Some are aiming even sooner. Helion, for example, promises a commercial reactor by 2028, using a pulsed fusion system with magnets instead of lasers. Commonwealth aims to deliver by 2030 using a tokamak design with cutting-edge magnets. Billions of dollars are pouring in. And the stakes? nothing less than the end of fossil fuels. How fusion actually works. Let's dig a little deeper into the science behind the two main approaches. Magnetic confinement fusion, used by JET and ITER, relies on tokamaks, donut-shaped reactors where plasma is held in place by extremely powerful magnetic fields. The goal is to heat the plasma to extreme temperatures, hold it stable, and keep it burning long enough to release more energy than it takes to keep it hot. Inertial confinement fusion, used by NIF, works differently. It uses 192 powerful lasers to compress a tiny fuel pellet of hydrogen. The pellet is blasted so fast and so hard that the atoms slam together and fuse before the pellet explodes. It's a bit like detonating a star in a lab. Short, intense, and difficult to control, but it proves fusion works. The challenge is ahead. But let's be clear, there's still a long road ahead. Getting more energy out than in is just one step. Turning fusion into usable electricity is another. Here are the hurdles still ahead. Engineering. Building reactors that can withstand constant operation, not just pulses. Designing turbines and heat exchangers that can work with fusion's unique demands. Tritium supply. Fusion relies on tritium, which is rare and radioactive. We'll need new ways to breed or produce it at scale. Cost. Right now, fusion experiments cost billions. That needs to come down before it's economically viable. Regulation and grid integration. We need new frameworks to license and connect fusion power to our energy grids. And perhaps the biggest challenge? Time. Because even with all the breakthroughs, real fusion power plants won't come online until the early 2030 at best. But here's the thing. We now know it's possible. And that changes everything. The bigger picture. If fusion becomes real, it will change the world. One fusion plant could power a city without pollution, waste, or carbon emissions. Nations wouldn't need to fight over oil or gas. Climate change mitigation would become far more achievable. Developing countries could leapfrog straight to clean, dense energy. It could be the foundation of space colonization, long-haul travel, and planetary sustainability. This is more than science. It's civilization-level change. And in 2025, we saw the spark that could light the path forward. For decades, fusion was the punchline, always 30 years away. But now, it's 5 to 10. The physics works. The machines are coming. The future is heating up, not with fire, but with fusion. And if we get it right, we'll look back on 2025 as the year we learned to power the world like a star. If you found this story fascinating, subscribe to Whispers of Fiction, where we break down the science shaping tomorrow, one astonishing breakthrough at a time. What do you think? Will fusion change the world, or will something else beat it to the punch? Until next time, stay curious, stay electric,